really glad we're friends because I didn't really work with you at all. Look at this. It's so pretty. And so I feel like these animals just weren't done justice. Thursday, which is one of my days off right now, and I haven't done my hair or anything. I've been so tired. It's been raining like off and on all week, so I don't know if that's why, or we've been crazy busy. This is the first time I'm vlogging in February because we've been so busy at work, and I've been working relief shifts, so it's just been really busy. So all I want to do on my days off is relax and not do much. Yeah, so I'll give you a packing update. I haven't really made much progress from the end of the last vlog just because I have been so busy. Organize the boxes to say which ones are going and which ones are staying, and then we're probably going to take the bookshelves to the dump because they got really banged up when we moved down here, and they're barely been hanging on by a thread. And then I think we're going to go through and price everything that we want to sell. I am going to also film a bunch of videos here while I'm packing, so if you see them later, even though we've moved, that's why. There are just some things that, like, videos I thought of that I kind of have to do now before the stuff gets put in storage. We're gonna relax this morning, make some coffee, read for an hour or so, and then get all together to film, and then we'll see where we're at. But first, coffee. I saw this video on, I think it was a YouTube short of this orange chocolate sauce to put in coffee, and I've been addicted, and I have one blood orange left, so I'm going to make that and have that coffee while I read. All right, and this is my art history mug that I got because I'm a big art history person, which we'll probably have videos about in the future. Could have used more zest, but it's still good. I'm reading The Moonstone, the first detective mystery novel. It basically like invented the genre. So if you're interested, it's pretty good. It's a little slow because, you know, it's Victorian writing. It is about a cursed diamond from India that gets taken by some British colonizers, and chaos ensues. Was supposed to read it in college. I think I read less than where I am now. I'm almost halfway. I'm almost done with the first part. Kept all my books from college because I was like, eventually I'll read that. I'll actually read it, so I'm doing that now. Hey, hey, come here. Come on, get her. What are you doing? I'm really glad we're friends because I didn't really work with you at all. You are so crazy. Okay. Come here. Come here. Come here. Don't grumble at me. Oh my gosh, you guys. I promise most of the vlogs going forward are not going to be just me at nighttime looking like this. But I had filmed a clip this last weekend that said I was going to vlog more. So today's Monday. Yesterday was the start of my week, and we were pretty much full in our ward at work. We might have had like 3 or 4 open kennels, And then they call us and tell us that we're getting 12 puppies from a partner. So 12 puppies in 4 kennels-ish, kind of. Yeah, so we had to kind of scramble and move things around. I don't know if I'm like, just because I just took a shower and I washed my face, or if I'm that tired, and if that's picking up because I'm exhausted. We had to scramble, so we ended up with 2 of our runs having 3 puppies in each, and then we were able to split up the other 6 into shorelines.
Hey, chill.
So terrible. Last night it was so bad. It hasn't been that bad in a while, where it's so loud I can't even hear myself think. They're pooping constantly and getting it everywhere, that's what the puppies, you know, you can't expect anything different, but it's like, can you just stop for like more than 5 seconds? Stop pooping for more than 5 seconds. Can we go 5 seconds without more poop? We got them in, so that was like crazy, and I was actually proud of me and my coworker. It was just 2 of us, and they came in, and it only took us an hour to test all of them, TPR everyone, get them in kennels and stuff. Then it took like another half hour to do all the paperwork. Anyway, it was crazy. So then this morning we had to come in and move out ones that were ready to move out so we could split them all up. And I've said this before, but we need to have them all in their own kennels so that we know who's doing what. And so basically, if you see bloody diarrhea in a kennel, but there are multiple animals in there, you don't know who is having the bloody diarrhea or the vomit. It's hard to make sure that everyone is eating, because we have to make sure that all the puppies are getting all the food that they need. We split them all up today, which took all day. I got in at like 7:15, and between me and one other person, and then we had a little bit of help from a third person. We weren't done with everything that was supposed to just happen in the morning until 3 p.m. I did all the baths, which was like 5 animals. I don't mind bathing them. Our tub is actually a good height for me, because usually I struggle with bathing them if they're small, because then you have to like bend over more into the tub, and so it hurts my back, which is why also I probably have my back issues. It takes a lot of time to bathe them and dry them enough where they can go outside, and it's been like 40s in Arizona in the morning, 48 degrees when I bathed the first one, so we have to let her dry off a little bit more before I take her outside to move her into surgery. I had to bathe them so we could clean their kennel, so we can move the puppies. So you see how this all happened. So that's been my week so far. So it's been chaotic and I've been tired. This past weekend, my husband was home. We went to a place called Pet Shack, which I guess there are a bunch across the US, and I've never heard of them. Mini golf bar situation. And that was really fun. I don't know if it's worth it, because the price you pay for a game is only for 9 holes. Up in Scottsdale, so if you're in Arizona, definitely check it out. It was fun. We went in the afternoon. I think that was a good time for us to go, because we're not really club people. I think it gets probably more clubby at night. The food was really good. We got some appetizers and then a dessert and then a couple drinks. Fun little date day. We are moving things around at work, moving wards. So we're moving our ward from one area to another, which is going to be a huge. So I'm actually going to spend most of my day working in that new place to figure out how we're going to set things up. I have to test this new situation that I want to do. If you're in the industry, you might have heard of flex coil IV systems that I want to get. So basically what happens with a lot of places that do like ICU nursing and they have animals on IV fluids for a long time, what will happen is as the animal gets better and feels better, they'll start being more active, and then usually you can take the IV catheter out at that point, but sometimes it has to stay in, because part of your therapy is like flushing their system. Even though they feel better, they still need the fluids, and as they feel better, they're going to be more active, and then they'll get caught in their fluid line, and that creates a whole range of issues. So there are these special fluid lines that I want to prevent that from happening, basically. So there's no way that your animal will get tied up in the IV line, and there's less chance of it kinking so that the fluids do continue to run. So I have to figure out how to convince them to let us buy that, basically. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting day, but I think I'll come home with less poop on me. It's crazy because this is the level of busy that I'm used to at other places, so it hasn't been this busy where I currently am since I started, and so I'm like used to this, but I'm like feeling it more. It's a good kind of crazy because I'd rather be tired and good kind of sore at the end of the day than just like feel like I did nothing all day. At least I am getting good sleep though. And then this weekend there is a used book sale happening. Wondering if they're gonna have a lot of rare kind of or vintage books. As I'm packing up my books and everything, I'm making all these TikToks in advance. And I was going through my kind of vintage book collection and I'm like, I want more. Which is the same thing that's happening with tarot decks and my tarot collection and stuff, because I found a very unique niche of things that I'm really obsessed with collecting right now, which is vintage promotional tarot decks. So basically there's this little bit of a trend that happened, and I have two from, I think they're both from the I think they're both from 67, but they're definitely both from the 60s. And it was a thing for these companies to make their own tarot deck or tarot pack, whether it's like just majors or, you know, their own kind of thing, to promote their products. So I have in my TikTok, I have one that was made to promote an IV system. So an IV line fluid administration system, which is totally crazy. Like they were using tarot as like a way to promote medical equipment. The 60s were crazy. Just bought one that was used for, which makes more sense, and it was a company that used it to promote their products, and they made paper products and paper. So that makes more sense. And that's why eBay is dangerous for me, because I am a huge FOMO person, and it's bad. Which is why I should just not go on eBay, and I haven't for a year before this moment. And then I was like, oh, now I'm falling down a rabbit hole again of eBay listings for weird vintage stuff that I don't need. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, the book sale. So I'm hoping that they'll have some like vintage or rare books that are hopefully not too expensive. Hello. So it is Saturday, so it's my last day of my weekend, and today we are going to a book sale in Mesa, and it's this huge book sale fundraising thing that they're doing for the Mesa Historical Museum and Society, I think. Haven't filmed this weekend much because it's been kind of a weird weekend. I spent Thursday hanging out at a new coffee shop, which I'm really excited about, and it's close to where we're moving, so that'll be normal in the future. I just spent like 4 hours there doing school stuff, editing a video. I was doing some research for something at work, and then my husband got home yesterday, so we just basically watched Lord of the Rings for the rest of the day and did some gaming and stuff, so that was fun. And then today he had to go meet someone for a work thing, so I am headed to the book sale, and we will see what we get into. Every time we move, I go and empty this out because we save all our change, because I collect quarters and stuff. So I collect like the state quarters, the women's history quarters, all of that. So we have a bunch of change. So I'm gonna go turn this in to get money for books. I know I said I was gonna try not to buy any books, but I've already failed that. So that's why we're going to the book sale. Okay, good morning. My hair is really fluffy today. I had it in a braid like the last 2 days, so I'm letting it kind of relax a little bit before I put it up, before I go into work. So excuse the fluffiness. I just wanted to give you guys an update at work. We're about to move into our new ward, and that's happening today. So I don't know how it's gonna go, but I haven't been able to film a lot of the patients because we've been so busy. We've been full for the last, like all of February, we've been completely full. Even when we move out animals, we get full again. That's why it's been kind of frustrating too when we have to move everything. We're full, and because most of the animals are on fluids, so it's a little difficult, and they're critical. So I'll tell you a little bit about who we have in there. It's been a little bit of a rough week. Today's Wednesday, so it's my Friday. But on Sunday, we had to let go of a kiddo who had been back there like a week and a half. And he was a little Chihuahua who just wasn't getting better. If you've seen my video about Georgina and the GI stuff that happens post-parvo with some of the patients, he was basically one of those. He seemed like he was getting better, and then Sunday he was really painful, and the way he would walk would be like really hunched, and he would kind of like go bow-legged when he tried to sit down, and then he would just like curl up as tightly as he could and like shake, and he was just so miserable. He started vomiting blood. His stool was like tar, basically like liquid tar, and so we did blood work and it wasn't good. We couldn't get a catheter in him. He wasn't eating. It was just all bad. I asked the vet if he would need like a stomach tube, which we don't do because it's a high level of maintenance and care that we can't do, and we need like 24-hour care to maintain those, so we just can't do that. And so just looking at him with his blood work, it was not feasible to keep trying for him, so we let him go. We have his sister or his housemate in there. We don't know if they're actually related. She is kind of on the edge right now, trying to decide what she wants to do. So I'm curious if they are litter mates, if they have something wrong, something else wrong. But we'll see how she does. She let me hand feed her yesterday a little bit, so we'll see. And her stool and her vomit are not that bad. She's not even vomiting right now, so hopefully she makes it. Yesterday we had to say goodbye to one that's part of a litter of 4 hound dogs from the reservation. It was really weird because when they came in, she was the worst one. She was lateral, which means she wasn't like coherent. Basically, she was kind of trying to go at that point, and my coworker was working on her the rest of the day, and we like brought her back to life basically with fluids and dextrose and things like that, and she was doing really well. I took care of her the last 2 days. She was doing well. She was like, coming up and getting cuddles. I'll put a picture right here that my coworker took of her kind of cuddling with me and stuff, but she wasn't really eating yet, and that was the only thing. And then when we came in yesterday morning, she was doing this weird breathing thing, and she was moaning like she was in pain. And it was weird because she was standing and wagging her tail and stuff, so I was like, are you just moaning for attention, or is it pain? And then I took this video where she was laying down just doing this like labored breathing. We talked to the vet, we did some x-rays, and we don't know what was wrong. There is a list of possibilities. There was a worry about something called fluid overload, which is when you give an animal too many fluids too quickly, basically, and usually that happens when it can only really happen when you have an IV catheter. What would happen would be that their lungs fill with fluid. That's not what was happening with her. She actually had fluid outside of her lungs, which usually points to something like heart failure, liver or kidney issues. She could have had some kind of trauma before she came to us that we masked with what we were doing to treat her parvo. So she had like pain medication, antibiotics, stuff like that was going to mask what was going on. And then when she started having the issues, those things were kind of wearing off. She wasn't on the pain meds anymore. She wasn't on as much of her antibiotics, so it kind of finally showed itself, and she was really suffering. So the vets decided to let her go, which was the right decision because she wouldn't have made it very much longer if we hadn't made that decision. It was sad. I went to say goodbye to her, and it was sad. But her other 3 litter mates are doing really well. They're gonna get out today. Like when we move, we're gonna move them out to different kennels outside of our ward. So yay for them. That's a pretty good save rate. But now we have a mom and 4 shepherd puppies, All the puppies are positive, mom is negative. All of them are just kind of cycling through everything. The one that is worse, really dark, bloody diarrhea. So we put them all on the second antibiotic just so they don't all get really bad. So we'll see how he is today. He was having less losses last night. So I'm hoping that the Baytril, which is the other antibiotic we do, is gonna, keep them all from getting bad and start them on a better healing process. It's stressful to have like that many, and they're all bigger, and just trying to make sure you're ahead of the game and not, let one slip through. So we're gonna go in and do that, and then we'll move them all, and then we'll be done. I've been so tired for the last 3 weeks just because it is so busy, and it's just like a lot of mental energy, It's physical too, but it's more like mental energy and just feeling like you never are caught up. Let's go check on the kiddos. Coffee, my cold dregs of my coffee here, and I just wanted to sit down and kind of finish out this vlog. The last clip you saw was me going into work. That was Wednesday. So I was telling you a little bit about the kiddos we had in there, and I showed you them when I went in that day. That day we moved into our new ward. We went in, I started treatments. Things were happening because they were moving other animals to other locations too. So things were happening all across the shelter that day. It was chaos. Well, they thought it was all going smoothly. But what was happening back in our ward was that we were trying to do treatments. One of my coworkers was bathing a couple pups because they were cleared to move out. Our other coworker was packing all of our supplies because we hadn't been able at that point to pack anything because we were full and we needed all of our supplies. So we needed to pack up everything like in one day. What ended up happening was I was like not even halfway through doing all the treatments for everyone, and our boss comes in and is like, okay, they're ready to move your animals. And I was like, what the fuck? Because basically what they were saying is that they wanted to move these critical animals before they got their treatments. And what was happening with these shepherds was that they were on a bunch of different treatments that take time. So some of the stuff you have to administer them, not like quickly. They have to be administered over a period of time so that like absorption happens adequately, so you're not overloading them with the treatment, you're not causing other side effects to happen because you're giving things too quickly. So like this all takes time. Like it takes about 30 to 45 minutes per patient to get all these treatments. We were the last ones to move because we're the most contagious, which makes sense. But at the same time, since we're the last to move, we shouldn't be on a time crunch because there was no reason to be. They had brought in vehicles from other people to help with this move, but they weren't going to be moving our patients. So there was no reason, like those vehicles needed to go do other things. So they were on a time crunch. There was no reason to do this, but we were being pressured to send these animals off that are literally critical without giving them their full treatments. And so I said, well, they're gonna have to wait. And then my boss kind of gave me some attitude back and was like, I have no control over this. It's not my fault, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't saying it was, but you need to understand that these are critical animals and they need their treatments before they get moved. And so my coworker, who is a better person than me and is better with that stuff under pressure basically told her that. And then she stormed out, then came back a little bit later and was like, okay, I bought us more time. And it's like, well, we weren't going to do it anyway. Like we were gonna make them wait either way. It's not like they were gonna come in and take those animals, you know, if we didn't do it, but whatever. And that, in my head, I just like could not turn my brain off to this. I was so irate. I was so mad. And my coworker was telling me like, just shake it off, it's fine. And I could not, because also I'm in my Mother Nature week at this point, but I didn't want to tell that to anyone because then they would blame it on that and not realize that this is wrong. And I have a right to be upset about it. That's the thing that gets me upset, is that like when management and stuff like make up these arbitrary schedules and then try to enforce them without thinking what is best for the animal, and they place all that stuff above animal care and patient care, and then hinder me in doing my job correctly because I'm worried that that's going to come back on me later. I'm like getting emotional. Mother Nature week. Went through and did all the treatments, and we were still rushing, and people were like, I could feel the pressure from it, and I was messing. I had to do things like multiple times because it was messing with me. So I was really upset that day. We end up getting into the new place. Shepherds are not doing well. So I had been working on these shepherds for the past 4 days. Like they literally came in the night before I started my week, and then I worked on them all week. And it's difficult because I don't even know why I'm emotional about them, because it's only been 3 days. It's just hard because this week, like, we've had to say goodbye to someone every day. Wow, I wasn't expecting to cry. But anyway, so I had said in my other video that in my other clip that we had to say goodbye to 2 others. And so when we got to our new place, 2 of the shepherds that were not doing well were still not doing well. We're doing worse actually, but we ended up letting 2 of them go that were doing really bad, which is annoying because I thought they were doing better that morning. That morning they seemed like they were doing better, like having less losses. And then after we move them and we get to the new ward, they're worse. And I don't know if that was the stress of it. I know that the one, his blood work looked really bad, so it probably wasn't, but it probably wasn't good to like stress them and move them when they're already bad. Again, it had to be done. So we had to let go of 2 of them, which I wasn't like obviously processing at the moment because it was the right thing to do. It was just like a lot that day. I don't get emotional usually about euthanasias lately because actually there's like less here that I have to do personally than I have anywhere else. So I don't know if that's why or if it's just my period. This place, they do a lot of euthanasias, like because they see a lot of critical things come in. So I feel like someone is gonna see me like this and be like, well, you're upset over nothing. Euthanizing poor animals in a week is nothing. I keep hearing conversations in my head, like someone who works in another department will be like, why are you upset? That's nothing, because they do way more than we do. But that's the difference, is that like in our ward, we're way more invested for way longer and way more quickly than they are with the animals that they euthanize. This move didn't have to happen. We could have stayed in our old building until these animals reach their natural conclusion, whatever that would be, because it's not like the building we were in before, we were leasing it and we had to be out by a certain time on a certain day. Like, it's not that way. There was really no reason for us to move except that management wanted everyone to be in that building. And maybe there is a reason that's not that, but that's how it seems to me. And so I feel like these animals just weren't done justice, and not because of us not doing our job, but because of when they've come in, they've just kind of fallen victim to this situation. I'm not saying they would have made it if we didn't move them, but it just didn't help, and it wasn't in their best interest. And so obviously I'm upset, but it's over now. It's in the past. So I'm just gonna move on. I did want to say that because it's something I didn't anticipate happening when this move was going to happen. I've been a part of a shelter move before, and we didn't really have criticals at that point, not to this level. I wasn't working in the Parvo Ward at that place, so I don't know I don't think we had Parvo when we moved. I don't remember, but I don't think so. I really didn't anticipate this happening, but I think it could have been done better. Whether we waited until these were done or like we didn't take them in at all because we are not open admission. Like we could have said, no, we're not taking anything right now so we can move and not have to deal with criticals at this point. All those things were options that management just, I don't know. But it is frustrating to be on that end because I know that if something had happened, like if we hadn't done blood work before we moved or something and these animals died and we hadn't given them the treatments before, that would have been on us. And that's not right. But it could totally have happened that way, and I could see it happening because of knowing how our management works. Frustrating, and obviously I've been bottling it up until now. So we said goodbye to those 2 shepherds. The other 2 are doing, I think, okay right now. My coworker texted me yesterday to tell me that they were doing okay. And then it was frustrating because we get into the new place and then they're like, okay, you have a new intake coming in. We don't even have anything set up. We're trying to care, like literally the rest of the day we didn't even set up anything or put anything away. We just grabbed what we needed to do what we needed to do for the animals and then left. I think it could have gone better if our management like thought about the animals. If anyone sees this from my work, I don't feel bad about saying that because it's how I truly feel. You know, maybe I'll be fired for that because that kind of tracks with here too. You can't really speak your mind or ask questions. After Wednesday and feeling like so stressed from that and from crap from Mother Nature, I came home and then I couldn't sleep because I can never sleep the first 2 days. It's a side effect. It happens every time. So I did not sleep. And then I had a relief shift yesterday. And so I go to that and I'm just like getting through it. It's just fine. It was another one, a surgery day, which was fine. But I felt like crap when I got home. And so I actually did sleep a little bit last night, but I slept in later than I normally do. I usually get up naturally at like 5:30 or 6, but because I couldn't sleep and then finally did fall asleep, I didn't get up until about 8 this morning. And I was like, you know what? This is just an at-home day. Trying to recover from the week, like emotionally and physically and mentally and all of the things. So that's what Luna and I are doing today. So it's, what time? It's like noon, and I've literally spent the morning reading. So we're gonna shift from all that stress to books. For the most of February, I've been reading The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. I was supposed to read this in college for an English lit class. And you know how college English classes are? They want you to read a book a week, and reading, Victorian fiction in a week is pretty difficult, I think, for me at least. So I definitely spark notes this in college, but I really was intrigued by the story, so I wanted to come back to it, and so finally I did, and I love this book so much. It is so amazing, and this is the used copy I bought in college, so like I got all of my books used for college, and then I kept all of them, and I didn't sell any back mostly because I knew I wasn't going to actually read them in college, and because I just wanted to keep them as like part of my collection. So this is like a pretty well-used copy, but it's the Penguin edition, and it has this really great introduction, and I actually read the introduction after I finished the book because they say in the beginning of the introduction that you're going to be spoiled by a plot point. So I read the story and then I read the introduction. I just love this book so much, you guys. I know it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to read because it's Victorian fiction. There's just so much in this, commentary about like class structure and racism and colonialism embedded in there that you don't really think of while you're reading it. Definitely a lull in it, like in the middle, but then it picks back up again. This story, if you don't know what it's about, is about a diamond that is taken from an Indian shrine, basically, by a British officer while they're invading, sacking a city in India, he takes the diamond, which is called the Moonstone, for himself. And then he later, when he dies, he bequeaths it to his niece, and then it goes missing. So throughout the novel, you're trying to figure out who took it, who is to blame, how it came to be that the diamond is missing and no one knows where it is and no one knows who is guilty. It is told in different points of view. So you have the first section narrated by one of the servants of the household, and then it goes to a family member, and then a person who was there during it, who's like a main character. And so it's just, the construction is awesome. I love that construction and the way they've done it. The way that each point of view is written is like somebody asked them to write down what they remember and what they know as happening at that time without putting in what they know now. So I thought that was really interesting as well. Obviously, if you read it, I don't love Miss Clack, but she is so funny. In this book, Miss Clack is one of the narrators for the portion that I didn't like, and it's not because she was the narrator, it's just the stuff that's happened during her narrative. But she is funny because she is like a religious zealot from, back then, and just the way she talks about those around her and the world around her is just so funny. And then there's a really interesting part about opium in this, and they talk about a book called Confessions of an English Opium Eater. So I'm in the process of tracking down a physical copy of that to buy on eBay. And I've got 2 leads, and one is a little bit more rare, so I'm trying to decide if I want that one or if I just want to buy one that also has other writings by the person who wrote that one. So we'll see. We'll probably have that in a future video because I'm definitely going to buy a version of it. That book is actually in the public domain, so if you search it and you go on like Google Books, you can read the whole thing. But I have a problem and I'm a collector, so that's what I go for first. I actually didn't know a lot about Wilkie Collins before I read this book, but he was addicted to opium at one point in his life, and there is a character in this who is supposed to kind of be a mirror of him in a way, who is addicted to opium too. For Collins to place himself in the story in a way and his experiences and how they relate to what happens in the book, I thought that was really interesting and really well done. Talk about in the introduction about how towards the end of writing this book he was very far gone in his addiction and had to dictate parts of it to an assistant who was writing it down, which I find crazy. But I think it'd be interesting to compare, like, if that is true, to compare how his writings look next to someone like Hemingway, who was an alcoholic, and his writing when he's in the midst of his addiction. I wonder how those kind of compare, if there is any way to compare that. Opium and how it affects, people in their walks of life and how they function. I find that really interesting. It's a huge interest of mine in reading things from that time period. So we will see if I get that book later. I'll definitely do a review and everything. So the next books I pulled out of my box for what I wanted to read later this year. So I started Before We Say Goodbye, which is the 4th book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I'm already like a quarter of the way through it. I'll probably read more today, and I'll probably finish it before my work week starts. After that, we'll see where I am. I'm probably going to read Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I was just feeling this a while ago. I was thinking about picking it up, and then I picked up the Moonstone instead. But yeah, so I'm still looking at reading this, I think. I also wanted to give you guys an update. So you saw me go to the book sale, and then I didn't follow up. I didn't do a haul or anything because I got home and my husband and I had to do some stuff, and then we just enjoyed each other's company until he left for work. So I will do a full haul on my TikTok, so go ahead and follow over there. But I wanted to give a few honorable mentions here. So I actually got 20 books for a pretty good price. My price was actually higher because I did buy a bunch of rare books. They had 2 tables of like rare, vintage, historical kind of books, and I spent a good amount of time there, and I felt like when I was walking through the first time they were putting more out, even though I didn't see, so I went around them like multiple times. When I was going through the other tables, it was like huge. and they had discounts on them. So hardbacks were $2, paperbacks were $1, and then they had the Harlequin romance section, which was 10 for $1. But yeah, so I went through almost every table looking through, and I was really just looking for more vintage books that were maybe likely out of print. There weren't a lot of like newer titles that I saw that like I knew I wanted to get those. First I got The Feast by Margaret Kennedy, and I had never heard of her. Wrote a bunch of novels in the, I think the 50s or the 60s. I think this is a first edition of the book. The actual story was first published in Ladies Home Journal. This is a mystery, and I guess all of the victims kind of follow the theme of the 7 deadly sins. So each victim is like a portrayal of the 7 deadly sins, which I find interesting. So I'm really excited to read this. It makes me think of Seven, the movie. So I'm curious to see another kind of iteration of, you know, that idea of the 7 deadly sins. But this is a Dust Bowl Diary by Anne Marie Lowe. This is actually a reproduction of this woman's diary during the Dust Bowl. So she talks about her life before the Great Depression started, and then how they managed to survive through it. She has diary entries, and then she has commentary on it. So you can see that she has these diary entries and then commentary to start where it is in the, you know, in history. Now this one I really just picked up because I liked how it looked. But this is called A Place Called Saturday. Again, I didn't know really anything about the books I was picking up when I was, because I was just kind of picking them up because I thought they were cool. Obviously, like things like this one, they have a little bit of a description of what it's going to be about. This one didn't have anything. This is just all it was. It didn't have a dust jacket or anything. Okay, so after I got home, I looked up the books that I didn't really know anything about. And this is a first edition too, 1968. Apparently it's about a woman who is essayed, how she kind of goes about after that. I will put a description of this book here. It's so crazy that I picked this book up without knowing what it's about, and if I knew what it was about, I would be like seeking out this book. So crazy coincidence, but I am really excited to read this one. This will probably be one of the first ones I read because I'm very intrigued by what it's gonna be like. Now the next two are a couple of the rarer ones. So this one is actually a children's book, I guess, but it is called In the Days of the Han, based on true historical events from China in the days of like the Huns. And so I thought this was interesting because there is a part in the back where the author talks about how it is based on historical facts with like the emperors and incidents portrayed in here. I think these are out of print, but they are in the public domain. So you should be able to find this one as well as other ones, whether they were reprinted by other publishers, or I think you should be able to find them online to read for free if you want. But when I picked this one up, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I opened it and look at this. It's so pretty. And then it has really cool illustrations in here as well. And each chapter has some like they have these, but then each chapter has these designs as well. So I just thought it was really a beautiful book. I think these illustrations are gorgeous. This edition is 1936. But yeah, it's just so gorgeous. Probably the more rare one is this special edition Edgar Allan Poe. So this is from 1901 or 1903, I think, and it's the Raven edition. And it's actually funny because I bought like a university reader Edgar Allan Poe just to have the stories because I wanted to read The Fall of the House of Usher because the show came out on Netflix. I bought that at a used bookstore, but this actually has stories that I don't have in that book. So I'm, you know, just expanding my Poe collection. This has this really beautiful illustration of, I think it's called the Golden Bug or one of his stories, the Gold Bug. A gorgeous edition, and it is a rarer edition. There are some of these available online for purchase, but they are a little bit more expensive. I got this for $20. I think they're going for like $120 online, $150. I think those are all I'll go through right now, but yeah, like I said, I'll do a full haul on my TikTok, so look out for that. If I don't see you, I might do a little bit more filming to wrap up the video also at work. Next weekend is the beginning of March, and we are doing a bunch of fun stuff next weekend, so that'll open the March vlog. Hopefully your February went well. Oh, at the end of March we'll be moving out of here, so hopefully I'll have all of the packing done. Really, I am for the most part done. I just have my oddities to pack up, kind of see what we want to do with those. I think I'm gonna sell a couple of things just to get rid of them, which actually started an interesting conversation with my husband. So one of the things I think that if you are dating, I think one of the things you kind of have to look for is how you dream together, is what I say. So my husband and I will have a lot of conversations about things we want to do, things that we think would be cool to do in our lifetime, and one of those is living in an RV and traveling around. So obviously that's one we keep coming back to, which is our kind of plan at this point. Another one we think we always come back to is opening a kind of a combination store. When we lived in Missouri, I worked at an oddities store, and it was called Noir Arts and Oddities, and it was the first time that I feel like I was home in a way. Going into that store, it's like crazy mix of things. So it was definitely a new age kind of store. We had a lot of, witchcrafty things. You could get like supplies there, like chime candles and incense and, stuff like that. And then there was another section that was more natural history. So like skulls and wet specimens. One of the owner's big passions was like funerary memorabilia. So she had a lot of Victorian funeral mourning type of antiques. Her big thing was medical antiques. So she had a lot of antique embalming supplies, a lot of antique like syringes and bone saws and things, and it was just like this mismatched awesome. And it really, like, I didn't even know I was looking for that or was interested in a lot of it, but then it just kind of flourished in me when I started working there. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, they shut down for a little bit, and I needed a little bit of extra income, so I got a different second job, and then they ended up closing for good because of COVID. One of the saddest things for me, because like going there and working there and just being there, I was home in a way, like completely accepted. Anyone could really go in there with any interest and you would not be judged. You would not be, bullied or anything. Like it was a place for everyone to just geek out about any of those things. And a lot of times I would see people, oh, I wasn't interested in that, but now I am, just from exposure through the store. And so I would love to recreate that in some way. And so when my husband was home, we were doing a little dreaming, talking about kind of what we want to do. And we talked about maybe opening a store. Our idea is to kind of have a bookstore, oddity, antique kind of mishmash store like that store was, a little bit of a broader, but we always talked about having that combined with like a coffee shop / bar. So it could be a place where people go and just hang out, a place where people go to buy things. And then we would have events, different things like probably a game night, probably trivia nights, probably host like D&D nights, like one shots, kind of a place that combines all of our things together in a place where anyone can be who they are, not be judged, and find different interests and things like that. Me collecting things is that like eventually they would go into this store either as decor or as for sale. The more I think about it, the more I really love that idea. But obviously you need money to do that. But yeah, like me collecting things, I guess now I'm thinking of it as like that would be the end goal, whether it's those things are decor or whether they are eventually sold. A big part of it would be like coffee and a bar and selling different things. I was even thinking it would be cool to have like food there and every day or every week have like a specialty toast, because I had toast for breakfast this morning that was crunchy peanut butter, green apple, Tupelo honey, and cinnamon. And I was like, oh, I could like put that on the menu. I thought it might be fun to sit down and just like stream of consciousness brainstorm ideas for that, to kind of see some ideas that we might solidify if we ever tried to pitch it to anyone. I think if you are looking for your person, definitely find someone who you can dream with. I think when we started doing that before we were married and we were just dating, that was like a big thing where I was like, yeah, this is my person. And you don't have to be on the same page all the time. It's just, you know, thinking about those things and talking about them and just seeing where your thoughts go and where your brainstorming goes. So, not that I'm an expert. Were you drinking my coffee? Were you drinking this? I will go ahead and leave this here. Thank you for watching. If you have anything to leave down below, definitely do. If you have any book recommendations, especially early Victorian literature, definitely leave that below. But otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Hi. Hi. Ah. What? What are you doing? What are you doing? Sir, excuse me. Excuse me.